G'day folks, Chris Nitto, Weather IQ. We're just waiting on the stream to go live. It should be starting to go live very shortly. I'm just got to fix our YouTube stream and I'll be with you in a second. So today's discussion is all about the NT low as it tracks southwards and what effects it's going to have in the longer range forecast for the rest of northern Australia. Be with you in a second. Alrighty. I think we can get ourselves going. So, folks, the big catalyst for the upcoming wet season for northern Australia in general is going to be this low. Now, it doesn't look like much, and it's not much, and we've got to be honest, it's nothing too dramatic and nothing too noteworthy. But what it does is it brings down this deep tropical moisture flow into northern Australia. And once that happens, we kickstart a chain of events that bring down the monsoon, and from that is where we start to develop our heavy rain over large areas of northern Australia. So let's start with the first thing, and the first thing is the low. How far is it? Where is it? On your screen there's a little oval-shaped area of where the low is likely located. So we're just going to go in a little bit closer to the Northern Territory and have a look at that in a bit more detail. Talk about where it's going to go from here, and from that, oops, let's try that. Let's try and decrease that. Right, so from that, we can then maintain an idea of where the system is likely to affect. Now, you can see over the next few days, our rainfall, our really heavy rainfall over the next few days, it's going to be limited to the eastern NT, southern Gulf region, and extending into the southeast Gulf of Queensland. So by Monday, we're not anticipating a hell of a lot of rain across all those areas that everyone's been gibbering about, right? Everyone's been talking about all this rain coming over Queensland. That's not happening until next week, and there's some doubt about where exactly that happens. So a few people are counting their chickens before they hatch. So the expectation at this stage is that this low will drift south. So where is the low? So let's find it. It's up here. It's around about 450 to 500 kilometres north-northwest of Nhulunbuy. The system is going to move east tonight a little bit. And then from about tomorrow, mid-morning, it will drift south. So depending on how far east it goes, from that point, it drifts south. So let's have a look at the model forecasts of where the system goes, and then we'll start looking at the wider implications of what will happen as the system travels through this area. Right, so the system located just a touch over here. There's our little circulation. It's fairly weak. It's nothing to be too concerned about. Now, our model guidance at this stage is telling us that the system is going to move in a general southerly direction and pass very, very close to Nhulunbuy over the next couple of days, and then extend south towards the southwestern Gulf. From there, the system becomes very, very slow moving. So we can see here that the system highly likely to be located around the southwest Gulf at Monday morning. As we go through into Tuesday morning, the system remains very slow moving and also decays very slowly. As we go into Wednesday morning, we start to see that decay a little bit more pronounced, but we also start to see potential for the system to be spreading southeastwards and spreading westwards into one large trough system. And therein lies our discussion of how it's going to implicate the rest of northern Australia into that highly broad rainfall region that we're going to start to see develop across the north. The other thing that we need to watch is just off the Kimberley coast around about mid to late next week. There could be a secondary rotational maximum out here off the northwest Kimberley. Keep an eye on that, and then longer term there could be a little rotational maximum near the north or central coast of Queensland. We'll keep an eye on that. If that looks like verifying, we'll let you know. But for now, let's leave those two potentials and let's focus on the one that's on hand at the moment. All right, so that's the expectation. When we take a look at our range of forecast solutions for this particular low, we can see that it moves eastwards tonight, and then from around about between 4 and 10 a.m. tomorrow, it starts to drift southwards from that point. So exactly how far east it goes in the next 12 to 18 hours matters, because if it drifts a little too far to the east over the next 12 to 18 hours, it may miss the northeastern top end coastline, and that's what some of these eastern solutions have it doing. Most of the model guidance is telling us we will see a landfall of a low, so not a cyclone, not a tropical cyclone intensity system, but a low pressure system right around Nhulunbuy, and right around Friday morning through to lunchtime is the expectation of coastal impact on Friday. All right, that from there, the system continues to drift southwards throughout Friday into Saturday. Some of the models that miss the coast to the east do develop it into a tropical cyclone, but potentially a little bit overly aggressively. So we'll keep an eye on that, of course. We'll know more tomorrow when we know exactly how far east the system has moved overnight and through the early hours of the morning. From there, the system is expected to move in a southward direction and continue to move into the southwestern Gulf of Carpentaria and or the southwestern Gulf country. That takes us through to Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning. That's the time frame that we're looking at there, okay? From there, the system will be slow moving, and this is going to be a key feature of the cyclone or the low longer term. Is it's slow motion, and you can see the range of spread of solutions starts to get a little bit silly after this time frame. After about Monday, we start to spread out the different model solutions all the way west to the Kimberley, all the way east to northern and central Queensland's interior, right? So it gets pretty silly after that. We don't really know what the system's doing. That's why I've been saying for a number of days, don't count your chickens until they hatch when it comes to rainfall prospects in Queensland from this system, because if it stays to the west, a lot of our heavier rainfall will stay in far northwestern Queensland. Okay, if it does start to move southeast, well, a lot of our heavier rain will shift into central inland Queensland, potentially central coastal Queensland. All right, so this is why what happens to this low after landfall matters. All right, so that's where our low is expected to get to by about Sunday, Monday in that southwest Gulf of Carpentaria region. And once again, we come back to this chart, and this chart tells us the rainfall we can expect until Monday evening. You can see it's really centred on the eastern side of the circulation. There's some healthy showers and thunderstorms through the North Kimberley, healthy showers and thunderstorms through the western top end, but it's not until we get right on that northeastern edge of NT that we see the best sort of more intense rainfall. And once we get down into the southwestern and southern Gulf and extend that Gulf country rainfall into Queensland as well, this is the area that has the real flood risk over the course of the next 5 days. This is the only real area that has flood risk over the next 5 days. So anything beyond that is contingent on what the low does after it crosses the coastline. So the initialised process of the low coming southwards results in heavy rainfall in this very sparsely populated section of Australia. Beyond that, we're also seeing a scattering of showers and thunderstorms developing across western Queensland, northwestern and northern inland Queensland. This rainfall over the northeast coast of Queensland is primarily done and dusted. There will be a little bit more shower activity tonight, of course, and into tomorrow. And we've discussed this in our subscription service, which we do promote. If you do want to support us, subscribe to Weather IQ, and you can see all the stuff that we've been forecasting for that area for a couple of weeks now. All right. The expectation from here, of course, though, is the possible branching out into a monsoonal trough system. So let's talk about that. When we take a look at our 850 hectopascal winds, so we want to take the frictional effects of the surface of the Earth out of the equation here. And what we want to look at here is what happens. I'm going to take our cyclone overlay off. What happens after the cyclone has crossed the coastline, or after the low, has crossed the coastline and moved southwards into the Gulf country. Right, so what this does now is it opens up this deep moisture channel from the north. All right, so you can see from the northwest coming in on the eastern side of the circulation, we've got this deep tropical moisture flow. When we take a look back at the far northern parts of Australia, we can see that this moisture flow is actually coming from equatorial, if not the northern hemisphere. So we're starting to look at this as potentially developing into a monsoon, not initially, but later on down the track. And so this deep moisture advection pushes down into the Gulf country and into parts of northwest Queensland. So now we're starting to branch some heavy rainfall down into northwest Queensland, and that's what's reflected here in the modelling. So initially we start to see the heavy rain in the Gulf, and then we start to filter it down into northwest Queensland. Now, how far further east and south it goes will depend on what the nature of the trough will be. Will there be other areas of rotation along the trough that will enhance that flow, or will it be a fairly minimal enhancement of that flow around that trough system only in Western Queensland, right? So there's why we can't start looking at 2-week out rainfall totals and calling them gospel and sort of planning our fortnight because of that. Because what we're seeing is every single day those rainfall areas do change. All right, so end result is likely to be this sort of thing here, where we've got very good rain over the 2-week forecast. And I'm just going to give us the total precipitation ensemble average. So you can see here that we have got reasonable agreement that there will be good rain in northern Queensland, particularly northern inland and northwestern Queensland. This is a model average approach, and the model average approach usually serves us quite well when it comes to these sort of events, because it takes out the crazy ones, and it also takes out the crazy ones on both sides, right? It takes out the models that show way too much rain, and it takes out the models that show way too little rain, and this gives us a pretty good idea at the sort of rainfall prospects we're getting on an average approach. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that sometimes we do exceed these numbers by a fair bit, especially in areas that appear in this white and grey region, right? So especially in these high rainfall areas, we can actually see totals that are a lot higher than forecast. But in these marginal areas down here into central inland, northern inland Queensland, we're a lot safer using these numbers compared to the glitzy, glamorous numbers that you're going to see on some social media or national media outlets. So the idea here is going to be, we're going to see nice rainfall over the east coast of Queensland. We're going to see good rainfall across the northern interior. Falls in excess of 100 millimetres are what we're looking for over the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Not 2 days, not 3 days, over the next 2 weeks. All right, so it is important that we temper our expectations. Don't think the whole place is going to flood and the whole state's going to be in a massive flood. That won't necessarily be the case. Certainly, from a flood perspective, we're looking at this northwestern region, absolutely. They've already been primed with a fair bit of moisture and rainfall in the springtime, so they're already got some pretty wet soils there, and they're primed this week with a lot of lead-up rainfall from showers and thunderstorms in this area. So that 200 to 400 millimetres in the Gulf region, yeah, the groundwater will respond quickly to that, all right, versus say 100 to 200 millimetres in the Emerald region, which hasn't seen good rain for a long, long time. That's not going to cause a hell of a lot of damage. All right, so understand there that we're dealing with different starting points at different parts of the state, and we're dealing with different levels of rainfall as well. All right, so when we take a look back to the west, we've also got in the Northern Territory the onset of their monsoon as well, especially if we can see this little low starting to form near the Kimberley. If we get that little low forming near the Kimberley towards the end of next week, it will really enhance the squeezing of the monsoonal flow in and around the western top end. But there is a lot of variability about that part of the forecast. And when we take a look at the ensemble spread of guidance, we can see there that this is a highly, what would we call it? Uncertain rainfall forecast for the western top end and the Kimberley region, because we have lots of models that suggest not much rain going on, and we've got lots of models that suggest heaps of rain going on. There's not a hell of a lot of in between in those, all right? So understand that the variability here is very high. The variability down in through the central parts of NT is very high. Variability is very high through the Gulf country, but even at the bottom end of the scale, we're still seeing very significant rainfall. For example, when I show you the precipitation minimum, so this is the minimum potential rainfall in the Gulf country, and we're getting minimums that are in excess of 100 millimetres, all right? So that's the minimum rainfall potential. If everything doesn't go as planned, minimum rainfall now in the Gulf country is 100 mils, right? So that is quite a significant minimum, but obviously the flip side of that is the maximum, and the maximum could be up over a metre of rain, especially if that low just sits here for days and days and days and drives a convergence band into this region, right? So understand we've got highly variable rainfall here, but even the bottom end of the spectrum of rainfall is still very, very significant for the Gulf country. All right, so that's where we are with regards to rainfall. And quite clearly then, as I said, for Queensland, the key there is going to be the movement of that low eastwards and the potential trough eastwards. And once again, high degrees of variability in Queensland. And this is why you can't just take a rain chart and go, plenty of rain for Queensland coming. Because we really don't know, and we don't know who for. All right, so this is the highly variable rainfall forecast for central and southern Queensland. Parts of northeast Queensland around Townsville too, because they're very susceptible to a low that moves eastwards through the northern interior. But this region in here, there is very little confidence in the rainfall forecast. From Mackay southwards, very little confidence in the rainfall forecast. Okay, and so when we take a look at precipitation minimums, we can see down here 2/5 of bugger all rain at the bottom end of the spectrum, right? Now, usually, almost always, we don't get the minimum, and almost always we don't get the maximum. But I want to show you this because it gives you an idea about why we can't use bro science and just take whatever a model spits out at us and use it as gospel for how much rain we're going to get. And when we take a look at maximums, gives you an idea of what would happen if we started to get some convergence going on through this section of coastline. You could see falls in excess of 500 millimetres in this section of coastline and this section of coastline up in the Townsville district, right? So it gives you a really good idea about how little idea we actually have of how much rain is going to fall through southern and central parts of the state. And now I think that's important because it's an important guide to tell you we really don't know how the backside of this next 2 weeks is going to go. All right, which you don't get when you get the sensationalist headline chart. You don't get this sort of nuance. All right. So that's where we are over the next fortnight or so. And when we take a look at how this all plays out from a modelling perspective, we'll use an AI model because an AI model will stop us from chopping and changing too much. So you can see heavy rainfall on northeast Queensland for today. Will start to become a little bit lighter tomorrow. Our heavy rainfall begins around the northeastern parts of the top end. I'll just bring the times down here as well so you can see. Around about Thursday night, Friday morning, and then extends down to the Gulf country on Friday. As we continue through Friday, Saturday, we pull that heavy rain away from Nhulunbuy and we push it down into the Gulf country, and then that heavy rain sticks around the Gulf country for an extended period of time on the NT side of the Gulf to start with, and then spreads over to Queensland on Sunday. And then as we go into Monday, we can see further heavy falls in the Gulf country. Notice there's a bit of an increase in the rainfall and around the top end, and that's because we're starting to bring down the monsoon to the top end there. All right, that monsoonal northwesterly. It won't be a monsoon just yet. It won't have the technical aspects of a monsoon just yet. But for then, at that time, for all intents and purposes, it will feel on the ground like a monsoon for the top end. And the same applies for the northern Cape York Peninsula region as well. You can see then we start to move some of our heavier rainfall down into Queensland's western and northern interior. Then the difficult part of the forecast mid to late week is going to be how much of that do we then move across into Queensland. Queensland, we don't know, and pushes how far south and east into Queensland. We don't know yet, all right? So there's still stuff there that we don't know, that we can't trust modelling on yet. But we do see clear indications that some rain will spread east and south through Queensland. The level, intensity, and how widespread and how long that sticks around for, we just don't know yet, all right? And that's why we have such a extreme variability in the rainfall forecast between Townsville and Brisbane, because we don't know from the bottom end where there's bugger all rain to the top end where the whole coastline gets flooded. We don't know where we're going to sit on that spectrum. All right, we don't know that yet, and there's no clear indicators yet on where we're going to sit on that spectrum. The good news, we got plenty of time to figure it out, so there's no need to rush in and start sharing stuff and panicking and doing all that stuff. The only people that need to be getting prepared for flooding right now is the northwestern part of the state, Mount Isa northwards, Gulf Country, Carpentaria district of the Northern Territory, and perhaps northeastern parts of NT need to be ready for that initial onset of very heavy rainfall. The rest of us can sit back, relax, watch what's going on, monitor it on a day-by-day basis, and not have to make any rash decisions, because we don't need to. It's not going to be something that's going to happen bang straight away, all right? It's going to be something that's going to take time to progress and time to evolve. Right, so that's where we are at the moment. That's as far as I'm taking us, because after that, it all goes pear-shaped. We may see more rain on the coast. We may not. We may contract it north. We may contract it back to the west. There's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. So, total accumulated precip on the AI modelling. Between now and next Friday, you can see we're getting reasonable falls of rain over large areas, right? But it's not panic station rainfall. It's reasonable falls of rain over large areas between now and Friday. And you can see from central Queensland northwards is where our best guess is, but huge variability all the way down through to southeast Queensland. So some of that heavy rainfall may extend south into southeast Queensland, heck, even northeast New South Wales. All right, so this is a 10-day rain forecast, and it does get blunted slightly. So the top numbers usually are a little bit lower than what they end up being, and the bottom numbers are usually a little higher than what they end up being. But it gives you an idea that it's not panic stations if you're living in central or north Queensland. Relax, take your time. Let's figure this out slowly with a bit of sanity and not with the high-impact graphics. All right, the places that need to be prepped now, and if they haven't been prepped, they're already behind, is the Carpentaria region of the NT, the Gulf Country of Queensland, and northern parts of northwest Queensland. Those areas, they need to be prepped now for heavy rain, because their heavy rain kicks off within the next 5 days. The rest of us can sit and chill, relax, and not have to stress about this rain yet. Now, for those of you wondering, Christmas is obviously one of those situations where we haven't quite seen a lot of this heavy rain push eastwards yet. We're maybe in the starting process of that. So expect to see lots of scattered showers and thunderstorms across Queensland for Queenslanders. And once again, we don't really know the intensity of that. But if you plan for scattered showers and thunderstorms, plan not to be doing major road trips on Christmas Day so you don't get flooded out by... at that stage, we wouldn't be seeing riverine flooding. At this stage, we would probably just be seeing flash flooding and surface water. So we don't want to be on major highways when there's surface water around, especially these inland highways when there's surface water around. So we don't want to be travelling Christmas Day in this mess, but we also don't need to be panicking and thinking that the whole place is going to be underwater by Christmas Day, because that looks to be quite unlikely. All right? So that's where we are there with regards to rainfall. Top end, what we're looking for you is going to be a situation whether we can get this monsoon southwards and whether we can get a little circulation forming off the coast of the NT or off the coast of the Kimberley, and whether or not that circulation can then assist in the development of that monsoonal northwesterly. All right, so that's where we are at the moment, folks. It's a complex setup. Remember, it's not going to happen quick for anyone except for the Gulf Country and the Carpentaria region. They're the folks that need to be prepping right now. And if you haven't been prepping right now, you need to spend tomorrow prepping yourselves as much as possible for the onset of heavy rain. All right. I'll take a few questions. Then I'm going to have dinner and bugger off. Let's have a look. Ben, already some sets in cloudy rain in Cloncurry. Cooled the afternoon nicely. Yeah, mate, look, Cloncurry, you're in a situation where, yeah, this is not related to what we're talking about. So this is just general pre-build-up rainfall, right? So when we take a look at, we'll use Mount Isa here. So what we're expecting here in the region for Cloncurry, you can see that's our potential for thunderstorm activity today. So coming up on the model nicely there on the AI. And you can see, look at those beautiful thunderstorms. Lots of drizzly rain around Cloncurry, but then there's some very heavy rainfall just to the east of Cloncurry out here in the northwest districts. And what we can see there overnight tonight is that heavy rainfall potentially starting to spread a bit westwards when this sort of rain and storm band just turns into one big thundery rain area. And you can see that thundery rain area progressively moving westwards as we go through the overnight early morning period. Then beyond that time frame, we see just isolated showers and thunderstorms through the region. And then it's not until early to mid next week, probably early next week for you folks, where we start to see the widespread heavy rain starting to set into this region, Mount Isa northwards. All right, mate? So, yeah, there's good opportunities there for some good rain tonight for you. And then the expectation will be on Tuesday that or Monday, Tuesday, that we'll see some good stuff. The big stuff and the widespread stuff. Aaron, hey mate, do you think the ECAI model will start trending northwards? I think it's already doing that. I think most of the guidance, Aaron, has been telling us central Queensland northwards for a while now. There have been some rogue runs of the AI, and there's been some rogue runs of EC that have suggested that rain will shift southwards, and that's what I mean. We've got that variability, that high degree of variability between Brisbane, Gold Coast, southeast Queensland in general, of where that rain could be. But at this stage, it's all about, on Tuesday for Brisbane, for the Brisbane region, we got this trough, right? This trough that links the south to the north. The southern part of the trough wants to move eastwards. The northern part wants to sit and chill up in northern Australia. And so the southern part of the trough wants to push off the southeast Queensland coast and clear you out for Christmas. The problem that southeast Queensland faces is that there's a fairly decent northerly flow through a deep layer of the atmosphere, which is going to try and hold that trough from moving offshore. And that's why we see that high degree of variability in rainfall for southeast Queensland. Far too early to speculate what Christmas is going to be like for southeast Queensland at this stage, mate, because you're in that complex area where the northerly wants to hold the trough back and give you days and days of rain, and some modelling suggesting that a drier air mass will push into southeast Queensland. So far too early to tell. Probably won't know that an answer to your question for Christmas Day until Monday next week would be my guess. So that's my answer to you there, mate. Thanks, Nitzo Lion Crower. Hey, great to see you, Lion Crower. You've been with us for a long, long time. You've been following us. Great to see you here, mate. Well done. Thank you. It's next week. I'll be okay. I think we'll all be okay unless you're in the Gulf. If you're in the Gulf and you haven't prepared, you're probably not going to be okay. So make sure you're prepared. All right. I don't want to downplay the Gulf. The Gulf is big. Make sure that you are prepared. If you live in the Gulf, you have friends in the Gulf, you got a cow in the Gulf, make sure it's prepared. All right. Make sure you're prepared in the Gulf. I can't stress that enough. It's going to be big in the Gulf. All right. The rest of us can just sit and chill and watch for a bit before we need to make decisions. All right. Lara, thank you. Very informative and interesting for East Coast. Looking forward to a bit. Yeah, I think we all are, and I think we'll all get a bit. But how much is a bit, Lara? That's the problem, right? That's where we got a bit of disagreement. What is a bit? That's the issue that we got. Thank you, Nitzo. Appreciate your balanced weather delivery. Thanks, Sue. It's as I say, mate, the reason we do this is to get rid of the bro science out there that shows all the high dynamic graphics and panics people into sharing, subscribing, all that sort of thing. Now listen, I've got a subscription service too, but I'm not going to panic you into it. You subscribe if you want to support us, and you subscribe if you want all the details. I'm not going to panic you into that. And I don't get any benefit out of panicking you into that, all right? So you get the same measured approach, plus you get some nitzoisms, some funny sort of things that I say. What did I say today? Santa's soggy sack. Anyway, you get that, but it's all about supporting us, and from that you'll get far more in-depth, detailed information than what we give you here. But, mate, the whole reason I do this is to try and counteract the bullshit out there, because there's a lot of bullshit out there, and a lot of people don't take the time to have a think about some of the crap that's being posted, and they just go and share it with their mates, and then all their mates start panicking, and then we've got a whole flow-on effect, right? So that's the whole reason why we do it. Hasn't let up here in Innisfail, rain gauge has overflowed. Yeah, Trish, if we take a look at what's expected over there, mate, let's have a look. We talked about this, by the way. By the way, for those of you wondering what we do in the subscription service, in here, let me find today's blog. So today's blog, so we talked all about this low in the Gulf, in the NT. We then talked about these areas, the Arnhem, Carpentaria Gulf, northwest Queensland. Then we talked about southeast and southwest Queensland. And we talked about central Queensland. We talked about Mackay and the area around it, Townsville and the area around it, Cairns and the area around it. And then we talked about the next week, week and a half for Queensland as a whole. So that's what we do in the subscription service, right? And that happens in the morning, every morning throughout the wet season. But anyway, let me go through here, back to your question, and let's have a look at the Cairns region. All right, so if we take a look here at the Cairns region, and once again, we'll use AI for an overview, and then we'll have a look at the high-res modelling, eh? So, yeah, you can see that a lot of our heavier rainfall just offshore at the moment, so still a bit of shower activity through Innisfail, you're right. And then as we go through, we can see our heaviest falls of rain basically happening now, and then overnight tonight we'll still see a scattering of showers, and then things probably still maintaining to some degree a bit of shower activity tomorrow. And then as we start to move into Friday, yeah, it drops off on Friday to just isolated showers, right? And if we take a look at our high-res model for this area, Access C North Queensland, it did brilliantly on this particular event. I think the onset of the event was a little bit slow, but overall, very, very good model for this event. It's suggesting more of those little showers coming onto the coast overnight. A little bit of an increase there as we go into the early morning hours, all the way down to Townsville. A bit of an increase in shower activity there through the early morning period. Yeah, you can see there is a bit of an increase there tomorrow morning around the Innisfail Tully area. So maybe some more heavy stuff for you in the morning across that region, and then breaking down in the afternoon. And there shouldn't be anywhere near the level of redevelopment of shower activity tomorrow night for you. But still plenty of rain to come for that region. So I don't think tomorrow's going to be a beautiful fine day. What about the Willows Gemfields? What about the Willows Gemfields? What about the Willows in the Gemfields, I think that means. So let's have a look. We'll go to Longreach. What do we got here? Longreach. Yeah, so this is one of those areas right on the southern and southern boundary of where that heavy rain's going to set in longer term, right? So for now, nothing to worry about at all. And you got plenty of time if you need to worry about it. You got plenty of time, by the way. Who am I talking to here? Dylan. No, Diane. Plenty of time to figure it out, mate. So if we start to get heavy rainfall through here, it's probably going to be not till Tuesday. And then from there, it sets in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then probably starts to move out of here maybe on the weekend. So that whole week from Tuesday could be quite rainy around there. But listen, you're right on the southern edge. You notice there, when I look back at this chart, and I'm going to take us out to 512, you'll notice here that as we go, we can see that we've got very light rain in the southern edge of the state, so just south of you, pretty light rain. Just north of you, pretty heavy rain, right? So you're in that sort of, that maybe not area. You're probably in the maybe now, but you might find yourself in the maybe not area if things progress northwards a bit more, right? So just understand that you're in a fairly highly variable area for rainfall over the course of that period between Tuesday and the weekend. So something to certainly be aware of if you're in the Gemfields, mate. Nitso, hey Park, hey Mick. I think I gave you a rap the other day, told everyone you were good footy players. How long are you going to do these live reports? Debbie, I'll be doing these live, as long as bullshit's out there in the weather world, I'm going to be doing these live reports to counteract the bullshit, all right? So probably forever. But I'll be doing these live ones, not every day because I've got a life, but, I'll be doing them whenever I feel that it's necessary to do them. Probably as this low/cyclone comes onto the coast on Friday, I'll probably do one in the morning for those folks up there in the Nullarbor area, and then once it comes onto the southern Gulf, I'll do one for the Gulf folks, and then once we start to get a better idea of where the rainfall will spread out, that's when I'll do another one. But as I say, I've got a life, so it won't be every day, but I will try and get them done. Whenever I see a lot of BS out there, there's a lot of social media pages that are growing so quickly, and they're just posting high-impact graphics, and it's really important that we counteract that with a little bit of sanity. Yeah, prepare your cows. Yeah, that's definitely an itsoism. Andrew, thanks Nitto, great coverage, mate. Listening in from Darwin. Yeah, let's have a chat about Darwin, Andrew, because we haven't talked much about Darwin, and Darwin's going to find themselves in an interesting little spot. So let's have a quick squiz at Darwin. So right now, what's happening over Darwin? It's not right now, but the idea is here we've got actually quite a weird little system in the NT and the North Kimberley. It's an upper level low that's cut off, or it's about to cut off in the next couple of days, and that's very unusual. I'm going to just take us out a little bit because that's too close to Darwin. Just going to take us out to the Northern Territory. So this is an upper low that cuts off in the North Kimberley, right? So initially it was meant to cut off a little bit further eastwards around that Katherine area, and then gradually as we've gotten closer to it, the models have pushed it further and further westwards. But that's a highly unusual little cut off upper low in the tropics. So first things first, that upper low can help to create a few showers and thunderstorms, but it also changes the steering pattern to some degree as well, which means that a lot of our showers and thunderstorms may stay inland. Our low coming onto the coast around our low coming onto the coast around Nhulunbuy and then pushing down to Borrow also then opens up a moisture channel for Darwin. So we start to see some real increases in showers and thunderstorms in the Darwin Daily District after the low is pushed south, all right? So the low's got to go south first before we open up that big moisture channel into Darwin, and then from there we continue to maintain scattered showers and thunderstorms for basically days and days on end over Darwin. Now, how heavy some of that rain gets is going to be dependent on whether or not we can develop maybe a little secondary vortex off the Kimberley coastline. If we can, there might be a bit of squeeze in this flow as well, and that makes all the difference when it comes to potential rainfall through the area longer term. The other thing we don't know, of course, is what does our low do once it gets down here into the Barkly district? Does our low then push into Queensland? Does it sort of wash out into one big trough? Does it push west back towards the NT? And of course, if it pushes it's already in the NT, but back towards the North Kimberley, and if it does that, well, then we can increase our squeeze in that westerly flow across the top end. So Darwin's another one of those areas with a high degree of variability, right, of rainfall, because if we can get something to squeeze that monsoonal-like air mass, and I say monsoonal-like because the monsoon clearly sets into Queensland and the northeastern NT, but it's not quite as clear whether the monsoon sets into Darwin. So we need to get one of these lows to sort of just encourage that cross-equatorial flow componentry, because at the moment, the way the model is there, Darwin's not actually getting a monsoon. On the ground, it'll feel like that, but that air mass isn't monsoonal over Darwin. It is over Nhulunbuy, but not over Darwin, right? So, and I think from a technical perspective, from a technical perspective, for it to be classified a monsoon, it's got to be the onset over Darwin, and that's what matters for the technical part of what constitutes a monsoon for Australia, right? So the monsoon clearly sets into Queensland and clearly sets into the Gulf, but not clear for Darwin yet. So that's where we're looking for Darwin, mate. But there's some good potential for rainfall, but there's also a high degree of variability. If we can't get that westerly to squeeze, all we're going to see in Darwin's just a few isolated showers and storms, right? And they'll continue over many, many days, but the accumulation of rainfall probably not all that spectacular for Darwin unless we can get a bit of squeeze in that flow pattern. Heavy rain in Cairns. Yeah, we've already talked about that North Tropical Coast, Jess. So, yeah, it doesn't look like you're going to get too much too quickly, mate. We're going to see things settle down. So still showers tomorrow, but probably not we've had up to 300 millimetres of rain on that section of coastline in the last 36 hours. So we're not going to see another 300 in the next 36, but we're going to see still quite a few showers around that Cairns district. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Barb. And tip for viewers, subscribe on YouTube and get notifications. Then watch Nitso in his live glory on the big screen. Thanks, Lion. Yeah. All right. No worries. Thanks, Rob. All right. So I think I've answered a few questions there, and that's where we'll leave it. Time for dinner. and I'll have a chat to you again. I think I might need to have a chat to you maybe tomorrow night, if not tomorrow night, Friday morning, just because of that low coming onto the coast in the Nullarbor area. So we'll focus on the landfalling effects of that low and then the southern Gulf effects of that low, and then we'll see if we've got any further clarity. I don't think we're going to have any further clarity on where the rain's going to fall in Queensland longer term tomorrow compared to today, so it's still going to be a lot of ifs, buts and maybes. I think maybe early next week, around Monday, we might have a reasonable idea for Queensland, who's getting the rain, how much rain, etc, etc, etc. Up until then, any high impact graphics you see from anywhere, treat them with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt, because we don't really know just yet who's getting the rain. If you do live in the Gulf, country, the Carpentaria district, you have already needed to have started prepping. All right, you don't have much time left before the rain sets in. So get ready now. Do whatever you